I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Williams, can you lead us in prayer, please? In Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
Do both.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you join me in prayer, please? Supreme Architect of the universe, we invoke thy blessing at this time. May this meeting thus begun in peace and closed in harmony. Amen.
Amen.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Thursday, May 17th, 2012 public business meeting. Before we start our meeting, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the late Allegany County Commissioner Bernard A. Lord. Served as a county commissioner for 2 terms. The commissioner was sworn into office on November 28, 1990. He held the leadership position of President of the Board of Commissioners during his 2nd term. His final day of service as an elected official was on December 9, 1998. Allegany County government wishes to again acknowledge the contributions of the late Bernard A. Lord at this time of his passing. Now will you join me in a moment of silence to remember a true civic servant. Amen. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ryan Schaefer, who happens to be a Fort Hill graduate who first got interested in flying by spending time with his grandfather at the Mexico Farms Airfield, now works as a commercial pilot as well as a flight instructor for the Greater Cumberland Regional Airport, and has been named the new manager of that airport, of the Potomac Highland Airport Authority. So without further ado, Mr. Ryan Schaefer, would you like to say a couple words, sir?
First, I'd just like to say thanks for allowing me to come to the meeting and be introduced and to kind of get my face out there and also get, the recognition to the airport. Sometimes I don't think it gets near enough recognition for the facility that we have there and the possibilities that are there. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate it, and I look forward to the opportunity and to the challenge, and also any suggestions that anyone would have to kind of maybe help myself out and the airport. We're always open for comments and for ideas to see the airport flourish and make things better for the economy, for the area, and this tri-state area. I think there's a lot of things that can happen here. It's just a matter of people coming together and putting the greater good and one step forward in front of the other. I think there's just so many different possibilities at that airport. It's endless. It's just a matter of moving in the right direction. So.
Well, I've heard a lot of good things about you, sir, and welcome aboard, and thank you for stepping up to the plate. I understand that the Airport Authority Board has a lot of trust in you, and they're looking forward to hearing some good things about it. To announce to our citizens, Mr. Schaefer has agreed to be interviewed on our next Commissioner Chat, which will be airing 1 week from today. So he and I will have a sit-down chat about economic development and what it means to Allegany County. So thank you again, Mr. Schaefer. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our May 10th, 2012 public business meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Brody and seconded by Commissioner Valentine. Gentlemen, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, under our action agenda, item number 1 is changes to our county recycling collection sites. I understand that Mr. Brian McCormick is here, as well as Woody Getz from our Solid Waste Management Board.
Thank you, Mr. McKay.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners and staff and citizens, I'd like to introduce to you Woody Getz. Woody is currently our chair of the Solid Waste Management Board. Woody has been with the Solid Waste Management Board since its inception in the 90s. So he's one of our longtime, long-serving members, has a real good history on where the program has been and where the program is going. But to give you a little bit of background, again, I'm Brian McCormick. I'm an engineer with the Department of Public Works. I work with our solid waste and recycling activities, and I believe the last time I stood before you was related to our solid waste management plan a little over a year ago. The presentation and the suggestions that you're going to see tonight are an outgrowth of a need that was identified with the solid waste management plan, and that need was to streamline and make more effective our recycling collection sites. So with that, I will turn things over to Woody.
Commissioners, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the time today on the agenda. There we go. I have a PowerPoint program we'll work with here. Basically coming with 5 recommendations from the county's board, actually our recycling site consolidation committee, and want to give you a little bit of background as to where all that comes from. Yes, it's been 15 some years, but it won't take nearly that long to cover. Thanks, Brian. Brian also serves as the vice chair of the board. He left that out. Late Commissioner Laura would have been one of the commissioners, and one of his situations would have been to approve the current county solid waste management board back in 1996. We basically have 2 purposes, broadly based: to serve as an advisory board on all matters regarding solid waste disposal and recycling, and to write the county's initial solid waste management plan as required by MDE and work with the updates of that. The plan itself covers 10 years in the future and is updated about every 3 or 4 years. A little on the board, we're a 17-seat board. For each seat, there's a representative and an alternate, so there's really close to 35 or so people directly involved. We meet monthly here in the county building, in room 212 usually, and at 4 o'clock, and I try to gavel that down at 6 o'clock, and the meetings are open to the public. 2 basic pieces of legislation that push what we do from the state. MDE requires each of the solid waste management jurisdictions, those are the 23 counties plus the city of Baltimore, to write and update, as I mentioned before, a 10-year minimum planning period solid waste management plan. The overall goal in the development of the plan continues to be to provide a system of resource recovery and solid waste disposal, which will handle the county's current and anticipated, as I say, for 10 years, future volume of solid waste as economically as possible, while also ensuring that public health, safety, and environmental quality are protected. The other piece of legislation is the Maryland Recycling Act of 1989. The original act separated all the counties into 2 classes, either under or over 150,000 population. Those of our size, the under 150, have to recycle at least 15% of the county's solid waste. Counties over 150 plus all state agencies were required to recycle a minimum of 20%. Recently, House Bill 929 has raised those minimums. The county is now in the category to go up to 20%, and the counties and state agencies up to 35%. We have been over 27%, so easily over the 20, since 2010. You might wonder why it doesn't have the 2011 numbers. Time always tells. That report had to be turned in, of course, after 2011. It's still being processed for approval by MDE. We'll get those results soon, I'm sure. Just about the time we turn in the next one, maybe.
Excuse me, what's the consequence for noncompliance?
I would imagine things that would go to MDE that you'd want approval on might not get approval. Those sorts of things. Brian is a county engineer, might be more directly involved with that working here in the office.
The hammer on that is that MDE can begin to restrict issuance of water and sewerage and solid waste permits. So that is their hammer to enforce the solid waste and recycling regulations.
Good, Dave?
Thank you, Woody.
Sure. Great question. Thank you. In that first plan, and has continued ever since, we established the solid waste management hierarchy of reduce, reuse, recycle, which people are familiar with, compost, and then what doesn't get handled in those respects goes to the landfill. There is one here in the county, and it also explicitly excluded incineration. It was considered and completely written out of our hierarchy for solid waste management. The plan was actually used throughout the state as a model for other counties. It was one of the first ones completed and approved by MDE. We actually also were given the Maryland Recycling Coalition Award in 2004 for small government recognition. Most recently, as Brian alluded to here, he was here, presented the solid waste management plan in October of 2010, and it received your approval so that the public's aware that plan is available in all of our county libraries and on site, online at the county recycling site here as part of the county webpage. We have, what I'm going to get to is the recommendations regarding the solid waste sites, the boxes. But just so you understand so bigger the picture here, we have certain events that we have held throughout the years. This year, in fact, these are all in chronological from when they started. This year will be the 20th annual year of the county's telephone book recycling collection campaign done through the schools. It's 20 straight years of doing that. In 1994, again under Commissioner Lohr's watch, we did start the household hazardous waste collection. Those were done here at the county. They are not annual though, nor is the next non-annual event which started in 1998, the Tire Amnesty Days. Both of those events don't happen annually basically because of budget issues, whether it's county and or state funds that we've gotten at different times in the past. The fourth ongoing event, and this one is another annual event, began in 2002 down here at this part of the county, at the county building, was done a number of times in a number of years, and annually since 2002. And this year was the 5th straight year. It was held at Frostburg with cooperation of FSU and the city of Frostburg, the e-cycling events that we hold for Allegany County residents. And just to announce quickly, we have a new program starting in this year. We're promoting backyard composting with the unit you see at the far end of the table here, the black unit. It's a backyard composter. Closer to me over here is a tan-colored rain barrel dealing with water conservation. These go right along with reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost, of course. We have the composting site, which originally was down around the Cresaptown area and since moved out to Mexico Farms, is used very extensively, but we're trying to get people aware that they can do this in their own backyard, put it on their own flower and vegetable gardens, reduce the amount of material they put out for disposal or have to take somewhere themselves. So it's a great program. It's a program that will first happen as distribution occurs here in Cumberland near this building for the cycling event will be held here June 23rd, Saturday. These are pre-sold items. The two you see up here are exactly what are being sold. You go to a nonprofit's webpage, you do the sale, the purchase through them. None of this goes through the county directly in terms of the money. The items will be delivered for that event that day for pickup. First time we've done it, we hope to have a successful initial launch and future ones as well. If you can't see these towards the back, there's a picture of each item that's up here for display. And as I say, quickly for Allegany County residents, Saturday, June 23rd, right here at the county complex from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is our next e-cycling event. We had one Saturday, June 5th in Frostburg. That was our 5th annual in Frostburg. So Saturday, June 23rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that information is also on the front page of the county website. So, in 1992, referencing Commissioner Lohr again, the county has not had refuse curbside collection in unincorporated areas of the county. Those unincorporated areas are taking care of themselves, so what we decided to do was go with a drop-off style of program. We only had 2 items we were collecting then, really. Old newspaper, ONP as it's called in the field, and aluminum and tin food and beverage cans. The idea was, oh boy, more is better. As we could, we added more materials. We also added more sites. As funds were available to purchase or rent in the budget more bins, we could put them out throughout the county and try to make it a bit more convenient for everybody. It kind of happened. It kind of happened haphazardly. It was very organic. I can't say that we went, oh, here, 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 with a great deal of intent, other than to spread it out or some places make it so more, where it was closer to larger populations, more things could be handled first. And those original contracts for rental of the bins and hauling of the bins were with Howe Trucking, and then for processing the materials was Brock's Scrap in Cumberland. More recently, 2000, we put out a request for proposal to get a local processor, and in 2001, Penmar Recycling Limited Liability Corporation was granted a 3-year contract to receive, process, market, and report those recyclables. Then again, in January 2010, the contract was again renewed. Penmar is operated by Steve and Kim Miller, who also own and operate Miller's Quality Recycling in Bedford, PA. Here's the site, or as it was till recently. This is the building that Penmar had rented from the county. You can see in the distance there are some bins in front of it. Those were basically a comprehensive site to collect all those various items you see on that list. And now, within the last year, to the left out of view, unfortunately, is the bigger building to which they have moved. The bins are still pretty much at that site, but a lot of their collection is now done inside the new, bigger building that they're working out of, and we'll update that slide sometime down the road. Here's a close-up of one of those bins. This is the bin we've traditionally used for about 15 years. It has 4 different lids. But depending on how it's structured, depending on where it is, it might have one item that goes into all 4 of those sections. Or it might be split into 2, 3, or actually 4 divided areas, and then have a combination of items that could be put into it. We have a different style of a collection box or bin that we call a trailer. We use these for plastics. They have an open kind of side to them, kind of a heavy-duty chicken wire mesh kind of structure. They're fine to carry the plastics, and plastics don't worry as much about the weather, so it's a good combination there. In this county, we only collect for recycling types 1 and types 2 plastics, and it's very important that we keep each in its own type of bin. Anytime you start putting things in other bins, that's one of the ways we have contamination. Somebody has to unsort that kind of stuff, or we get less money for it, but then it still takes more time. Those are some of the issues we've encountered over these 15 years that these recommendations are going to deal with. Quick numbers. Currently the budget's about $165,000, and we have 3 funding sources to meet that expenditure. We get currently $1.50 per ton that goes into the landfill located here in the county, and that brings us in about $55,000 per year, which is roughly 1/3, about 33% of the annual budget. The materials themselves, some are sold at a loss, but the overall revenue generated comes to a profit net sum of $10,000 per year, so about 6% of the budget. The remainder is made up from the county general fund, and we're talking currently about $100,000, or roughly just over 60% of the budget for the recycling program here in Allegany County. This is on the county website. And this was produced by folks here in the county itself. The upper part is a scrollable list, alphabetically organized, and tells you all the different items available at each site, when it's open, where it's located. The lower half is an interactive map. You could click on any of those recycling logos. It would bring up some information about the site as well as a picture, so you could easily spot it when you get there. Following the 2010 plan that you recently approved, we set up our recycling site consolidation committee, and we wanted to look particularly at where those current assignments of recycling boxes were and how well they were being used and or problems that existed, and individually. We wanted to look very detailed, and we did. Of the then 16 county recycling sites, 5 had very low participation rates. We were paying for a box or renting a box to be there. It was hardly ever filling, so that cost was being spent long time and hardly ever bringing anything in for any types of revenue. Often also we found that there was contamination with trash or other prohibited recyclables, things being put in the wrong type of bin. So we came up with 5 locations that we thought require immediate action. They are in no particular order perhaps, but White Oak Shopping Center here in Cumberland, Hill Street, Frostburg, LaVale Walmart, LaVale Plaza, and the CVS in LaVale, so the LaVale area, Westmar Middle School in Lonaconing, and finally Eastern Allegany County. And I probably misspoke there. We're actually looking at those in terms of how we would progress and what we would see could be done the easiest, the cheapest. All this is revenue neutral. We're looking at only using the boxes, bins, trailers that we currently have and the sites we currently have, other than some consolidation in the LaVale area particularly. The recommendations are attempting to create more comprehensive sites, More things could be taken to one place, less driving by the residents. It's known nationally that the more you can take, more types you can take to one site, the more participation you get, not just the more material. Provide more convenience, again, that less driving kind of issue. Reduce the contamination that we found at these particular sites, and reverse poor participation. Hopefully get more people coming out because it's more convenient. You can do more one-stop shopping kind of idea. So the specific recommendations are, for White Oaks and Cumberland, relocate the bin to the Allegany College of Maryland site that has already been established. That would result in 3 containers being at that site. One would be newspaper and aluminum steel tin cans, 1 bin for office paper, and 1 bin for magazines. Makes it a slightly more comprehensive site. Hill Street in Frostburg. Well, this actually has been closed within the last year or so at the request of the site owner, and we cooperate with all the site owners. Some of them are not county sites. We recommend continuing to pursue a recycling site within the city limits of Frostburg to try to find a place that would permit a comprehensive site, a large enough footprint, access for the vehicle that needs to go in and out to haul the bins, that kind of thing. Our third recommendation deals with the LaVale area. Happens to have 3 sites down there currently, LaVale Walmart, LaVale Plaza, and the CVS. What we'd like to do is a recommendation of consolidating these to one, unfortunately as yet undetermined site in LaVale, making it much more convenient. Right now, all those sites are within about a mile or so from each other, but one's place would be a lot quicker. And for instance, Walmart is hauled just a couple times a year. So we're paying all that rental money and very little coming from it in terms of what's dropped off. The fourth recommendation, Westmar Middle School. We'd like to relocate that container to Westernport. That would result in 2 containers at the Westernport site. One would be for newspapers and aluminum steel cans, and the other for magazines. And our final recommendation regarding Flintstone and Old Town sites. Expand the types of materials for recycling there by adding bins so that we could collect office paper as well and magazines as well. Try to make that more comprehensive as well. And any time in our recommendations that one of these changes would occur, at least a month prior to that site change, the public would be notified in 3 ways: an announcement on the county website, an announcement to local media, and finally signage right at the site, at least a month in advance, explaining what the change would be and when it would take effect.
Okay.
That's the last slide, gentlemen.
This last one.
That's the last one. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
When you go down Millbrook Road to either the hospital or the college, traffic is really terrific. Do you think that that is the possible best location for a recycle area that will only add to that problem of traffic?
You're referring to the site at the Allegany College of Maryland? That site has already been under some use. All we're expecting to do at this point, or hoping to do, is add another bin or 2 to expand that site. We've found that it has been working. We've not heard of any particular traffic problems attributed directly to it. It's a site whose footprint area would allow for the addition of another bin or 2. The college is very cooperative, would like to see the expansion of that. And it's in a place where the vehicles that have to go and take out the bins when they're full and bring them back when they're empty, it does work well. So we've been pretty pleased with that. We're trying to, I guess you'd say, build on that success.
One other question, sir. I live in Flintstone, and I love scenery, especially on National Pike. When you go towards Hancock from the Flintstone area, all along the road, on the side of the road going east, you find where people have dumped refrigerators, televisions, stoves, all sorts of material like that. The problem, I think, I'm not sure, would be that a lot of people that have these sort of things that need to be recycled cannot make the trip all the way to Frostburg. And then again, the cost to have them take it would be more than they may be able to handle. Is there any way at all that a more local area could be arranged for recycling of those things at a lower cost, and possibly even a day whenever those sort of things could be picked up at sites where people without transportation and hauling them would have an easier way to get rid of them? Because National Pike is one of our great historic places, and people will do this. So there has to be sort of some encouragement somewhere.
Well, certainly it's unsightly wherever it happens in the county. As a county resident, I know I see it as a visual blight to see those things that are disposed of improperly. It can also be a hazard to water sources and things, depending on what they're made of. Yeah. One thing, if I may mention, is that the closest site for anybody probably in the whole county is Cumberland, here at the county building. So in terms of, you mentioned bringing things to Frostburg, you don't have to go to Frostburg, even though it's fairly close to where the landfill is. The comprehensive site here at the county building out back is actually the site where every item can be taken to be accepted.
But what about pickup for these things where people are, I mean, you find materials like that sitting in yards sometimes.
Well, I think that's what, Ms. Schweitzer, I think what we can do is maybe you and I can meet on that, and I can answer some of those questions for you, and we can go from there.
It's basically a budget issue.
It is. It's a budget issue.
Give us that credit card, we'll do everything. But we know
Exactly.
that's not going to happen either way.
Correct.
And so what we need to look at is you meeting with the commissioner, the board can address things as best we can.
And
we'll
then
be glad to
I'll
do
get
that.
with Mr. Kale to talk about those individual areas that you're talking about right now, and we can address those. Okay? Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the changes to the county recycling sites as recommended by the Allegheny County Solid Waste Board Management Board and in accordance with the Allegheny County Solid Waste Management Plan. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody. Is there any discussion? We'll call for the question. Commissioner Brody?
Aye.
Commissioner Valentine?
Aye.
Commissioner McKay? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much, Mr. Getz. We appreciate all your efforts.
Real quick, if I might interrupt, sir, my apologies, but Mr. Kale would like to have the opportunity to say a few kind things on behalf of Mr. Getz's contribution through the years.
Okay.
While he's here, his accomplishment for Allegheny County in our recycling and solid waste has been tremendous over the years. The Solid Waste Management Board is a very active board. They do other meetings monthly. It's very heavily attended. They have 10 to 15 members. Woody's a true believer in what he's doing right now. If you went to the e-cycling day on Frostburg State, you'd see him on volunteers without getting paid out there helping collect the electronics and going through the whole show. If you went to our tire day in the old days, you'd see him out front. So he's a true believer in all this is in his free time and his dedication to try to help Allegheny County. So I'd like to acknowledge Woody and help him.
Let's give him a round of applause. Woody, I was going to explain a little bit of a personal note about it. I have never been a big recycling person. And through the efforts of what the county is doing and trying to educate our young people, my family has been, for lack of better words, turned into recycling phenoms or whatever the case may be. And so that's a test to you that continue with the education that you're doing out there, continue the education of our residents as well, because it does filter up. And we're true believers now. I just got to figure out a way of corralling it. They go twice a week. They come out here. They come out as a family. But keeping it in bins, and their father's a little, anyhow, special. So the therapist said he's working on that part of it. But thank you, sir. You've changed our family, and we appreciate that. Your whole board has. Okay. Gentlemen, item number 2 is the Braddock Run Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Contract S-71. I understand that you're back again.
I'm back.
Okay, again, I'm Brian McCormick. I'm a professional engineer in the Department of Public Works. I'm here to request permission to award a construction contract tonight. This is our contract, S71, entitled Braddock Run Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation. This work will be in Eckert and Clairysville. The contract amount is about $1.2 million. Our low bidder was Carl Belt Incorporated of Cumberland, Maryland. And to give you a little bit of background on why we're here, the Braddock Run Sanitary District, as well as our other sanitary districts, are under a consent order with the Maryland Department of the Environment to eliminate sanitary sewer overflows. And that's exactly what it sounds like. That's sanitary sewage where it shouldn't be. That's a result of numerous causes, but primarily aging collection systems that need rehabilitation and in some cases partial replacement. So this contract is for work on the interceptor line, the large diameter interceptor line between the city of Frostburg and the community of LaVale. This is really the second phase of what will be a multi-phase, multi-year project to address these concerns and to comply with the Department of the Environment consent order. Give you an idea of the funding involved here. We have a $1 million loan for this project, and depending on where the final amount of construction ends up, we can get more loan money from MDE if need be. $875,000 of that loan is scheduled for loan forgiveness. So that's basically a grant. The remainder, okay, in this case, $125,000 or however much more we spend, and that will be a decision we make internally as to not affect rates. Okay, we want to keep our debt service such that we're not affecting the sewer rates. But the remaining amount that is loaned, we've had very favorable loan terms in the past. This is typically loans on the order of 1% or so for a 30-year term. So very favorable financing in this case. 7/8 of this project is grant funded. The remainder is a very favorable loan term, and again, to keep us in compliance with a consent order from the Department of the Environment. So again, requesting that you approve the award of this contract, and we hope to have it under construction in June.
Wonderful. Any questions, commissioners? No? I'd like to entertain a motion that we award or authorize the county commissioners to approve the award of the Braddock Run Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project. That's contract S-71. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Brody, seconded by Commissioner Valentine. Gentlemen, we'll call for the question. Commissioner Brody?
Aye.
Commissioner Valentine?
Aye.
Commissioner McKay? Aye. Motion carries, gentlemen. Okay. Under the Department of Emergency Services, item number 3, this is the Westernport Tower License Agreement. Understand that Mr. DeVore is here. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. What you have before you is a request to adopt a revised agreement on the construction of the Westernport Tower site. As you recall, early last year, we entered into an agreement with the property owner in Allegany County for the use of property to construct a communications tower that was funded in part by a federal grant. Through much effort, the state of Maryland has provided the match on that federal grant now. In exchange for that match, they've asked to be added as a signature to the original agreement. We've processed that original agreement for the additional signature for the state, and we submit that for your approval tonight.
Okay, wonderful. Gentlemen, any questions for Mr. DeVore?
No, sir.
Before we take the vote, I think it's important that we recognize Mayor Laffey, who is in the audience today. Thank you, Mayor, for all that you do for the citizens of Westernport, but more especially of all the citizens for Allegany County. And it's been a pleasure working with you, sir. Gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion that we authorize the signing of the revised Westernport Tower License Agreement for the use of real estate in Westernport for the purpose of constructing a radio communication tower for the emergency communication. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody. Any thoughts, concern? Call for the question. Commissioner Brody?
Aye.
Commissioner Valentine?
Aye.
Commissioner McKay? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, Finance Department, item number 4, budget amendments. This is to authorize the county commissioners to approve several budget amendments to account for the employee savings plan savings award paid in November 2011 and such.
And many others.
That's right.
Good evening.
Mr. Bennett, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good. Total of 6 budget amendments tonight we're requesting approval for. First one would be for the savings award you mentioned. We paid that in November of 2011, and this would simply recognize it in our budget, $264,000. The second budget amendment would be for the county office complex HVAC. It's $195,000. We actually budgeted for that back in fiscal year 11. Weren't able to expend the funds in time. Project's moving forward now, so we're simply rolling the money into this current fiscal year. Number 3 would be for the roads department. They had $735,000 worth of savings last fiscal year, so we're going to take a little bit of that savings, $475,000, roll it into this year, so that they can go get some much-needed equipment. We've not replaced equipment there for a number of years now, so they're long overdue. The fourth one would simply be a transfer of expenditures, nothing new for us, moving a couple of positions from the Bureau of Police into HR, so that would just be reflected in our books. Number 5 would be for the Out of School Coalition. It's a new grant program from the Local Management Board, $46,000, and that would simply be getting in our books. It's completely grant funded. And then the final one is a minor adjustment to the grant for family support services for $4,500. And it's just simply an adjustment. And that's it.
Okay. Commissioners, I move that we accept these 6 budget amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner McKay and seconded by Commissioner Brody. Gentlemen, any discussions? Call for the question. Commissioner Brody?
Aye.
Commissioner Valentine?
Aye.
Commissioner McKay? Aye. Motion carries. All right, item number 6 is the CSX Temporary Construction Easement Agreement. I understand that the debonair and dashing Mr. Tim Carney is here to explain.
Thank you, Commissioner, for those kind words.
Oh, wait a minute.
My wife doesn't always agree with that, but thank you. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, we're entertaining a request from CSX for a temporary construction easement. It's related to a property sale that you approved mid-March of this year for replacing a siding in the North Branch Industrial Park. Evidently, CSX, when they outlined the area that they wanted, they purchased only the area that they needed for the actual construction. They put the contract out to bid, and they discovered, well, gee, we need a little more area upon which to work while we're building this. So they've come back to us and asked for us to talk about approving a temporary construction easement to them for this project. The easement would be for 6 months and an opportunity to extend that another 3 months if they have bad weather and don't get the project finished. That 0.4 acres, we're only talking a very small area. It would be restored to hopefully the same condition or maybe better, since it's brush and small trees right now. That's an overgrown area in the park. And the reason we're doing all this, as we mentioned when we sold them the land, was this is an effort to make sure there's continued rail delivery to Berry Plastics in that park. Because CSX is slated to remove a bridge this summer that they're currently using for those deliveries. So we want to stay on top of this and make sure that it happens.
Wonderful. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Carney? No? I'd like to entertain a motion to have a CSX temporary construction easement agreement.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody.
Wow.
We'll call for the question. Commissioner Brody.
Aye.
Commissioner Valentine.
Aye.
Commissioner McKay. Aye. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Everly, what do we have on our consent agenda this evening, sir?
Commissioners, we have 4 items for you this evening, items 7 through items 10. And for a point of clarification on item number 10, I'd like to simply point out for the record that the emergency services vehicle in support of...
Item number 10?
Item number 10.
You don't have the same numbers we do. We got 6 through 9.
Yeah, we got
We have
six
number
through
9. Let's go with number 9.
We do that. Number 9.
And I'd like to simply clarify for the record that the vehicle in question is not the lowest priced vehicle that the county received bids for. However, it is the bid that qualified to the fullest extent all the specifications that the county was seeking.
Okay.
And following the recommendation of the CERT team and county staff, we'd like to move ahead with this acquisition.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions for our administrator on the consent agenda? No? I'd like to entertain a motion to accept our consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Brody and seconded by Commissioner Valentine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All righty. Mr. Everly, you're up again.
Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioners, as we do each year at this time, the county advertised and received bids for emulsified asphalt and washed crushed stone, which we opened up on Tuesday of this week. Those bids were forwarded to our staff in Public Works for their review. Those materials are acquired each and every year to support the county's annual chip seal program. And last but certainly not least, the county also accepted bids on the electronic access security system, which is also known as the keyless entry system. And those bids have also been referred to staff for review, and hopefully we'll be taking action on those 2 items very soon.
Okay, wonderful. Mr. Rudd, it's been 2 years, and I've kind of shortchanged you to allow you to have some kind of shed some words or whatever, and I'm going to continue that. Thank you for attending, Mr. Rudd. Commissioners.
I'll just do a short rundown of some things that's been going on this week since last Friday or Thursday. We'll start with Friday. Garrett County Republican Central Committee meeting. That was Friday. Monday, Maryland General Assembly special session, Annapolis. U.S. Senator Ben Cardin forum down at the HRDC building. Allegany County Board of Health meeting, Tuesday. Maryland General Assembly special session. Several constituent meetings, Wednesday. Lakes Entertainment, Rocky Gap Pre-Construction Conference. Allegany County Chamber of Economic Development Committee meeting. Allegany County Board of Health meeting. Allegany Highlands Trail meeting. Transit consultant in Maryland with Maryland Transportation Authority. Transportation Development Plan meeting. HRDC Homeless Board meeting. The Jefferson School Open. Western Maryland Area Health Education Center meeting. Town of Luke meeting. Chamber After Hours. Rails to Trails in Hancock. Thursday, May 17th, constituent meetings. Western Maryland International Grand Opening and Open House for the International Beltways Companies. Legislative review. Budget workshop and commissioners' public meeting and a town meeting for Frostburg tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Valentine.
As Creed alluded to, Monday and Tuesday I went to Annapolis for the special session. We thought that with the numerous budget issues that were being discussed there, that we should have a presence. To say the least, it wasn't a pretty time down there. They came real close on having the same outcome as what they had during the special session. There was a point on Tuesday where they didn't think they were going to get the budget finished yet again. Finally, late Tuesday evening, the House passed the needed bills. They went back in Wednesday, basically rubber stamped everything. So finally, Maryland does have a budget. They did away with the doomsday. Short term, what they came up with helped the county a little bit. Long term, it hurts. Somewhere along the line, the state just has to realize they can't keep spending money and then sending the bill to the counties.
One of the biggest things that did pass is the teacher pension shift, which first year we get enough income from the state to cover that shift, but next year the cost of the pensions will assume liability for 65% of that expenditure, and the amount of money we get from the state will go down a little bit. By year 5, we'll be receiving a bill for a little over $2 million, probably getting close to $3 million, and we'll probably see a $60,000 increase per year every year after that. Sad part of it is we've got no control over it. We're paying the bill and we don't have a say in any part of that pension system. One of the other things that's going to hit the county, it's going to be a business killer throughout the state, is the income tax that they pass. It sounds like a lot of money to a lot of people who say anybody making $100,000 or more, but that actually takes in a lot of very small businesses that have what they call an S corporation, because that business income is shown as private income. And that's going to be another 5.5% on their income tax. And the dirty little secret is it's retroactive to this past January 1st. So when they get their tax bills next year, it's going to be very strong. And there's a lot of businesses just don't know how they're going to handle it. So once again, Maryland's lived up to its reputation of not being a very business-friendly state. Hopefully, with some of the discussions we've had this week with various individuals, things are looking a lot better for Allegany County. We should be seeing some new business activity here over the next year or so. So we'll just have to keep an eye on the state, see what they have planned for next year. Part of our budget, we're starting basically, I guess you'd call it a reserve fund. We're going to have to set money aside each and every year so that whenever that $2.5 to $3 million bill becomes due in 5 years' time, we've got some money put back to pay that sum of money. So that's good planning on our money man back there on his part. That's all I have.
Okay, wonderful. We're going to move into a constituents period. We ask those citizens wishing to address the board to register on a sign-up sheet and condense their comments to 5 minutes or less. This will allow for the opportunity of everyone wishing to come forward to have a chance to speak. If an additional 5 minutes is necessary, their name will be added to the bottom of the list. We will conduct our meeting in an orderly fashion and ask that everyone wishing to speak first be recognized by the president, come to the microphone, and give his or her name and address prior to their comments. On tonight's sheet, we have first Mr. Dan Laffrey. Dan? Welcome, Mayor.
I'm Dan Laffey, Mayor of Westernport, and I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here on behalf of the council and the citizens of Westernport to thank the county for attending our meeting 2 weeks ago. We really appreciate the show of support that we get from the county and Mr. McKay, Commissioner McKay, and Commissioner Brody, and the county administrator, Mr. Everly, and also the coordinator or the chief of the security, Robert Dick, and also Mr. DeVore for being there. I think it really showed that we support the county and the county supports us. A few years ago, we didn't really work with the county real good. Not that it was the county's fault, it was our fault. But in the last 4 years with the administration of Emil Morris and also since we came into office, I think we have a real show of unity there. And I'm just here tonight to thank you because I don't know what we'd do without you. Every time we call down here, we get good advice or help, and we really appreciate that. So thank you for that. The second reason I'm here tonight is to invite the county and the staff to Westernport on Saturday. We have a open house at our filter plant. We just completed a $2.4 million upgrade on that plant. It's state-of-the-art. I think you'll be impressed, so we would like you all, as many of you that could, to come. The last thing I have to speak about tonight is I brought some pictures from the meeting that you attended. A lot of pictures were taken that night. I just want to tell you that Renee and I spent a lot of time going over these pictures. We picked out the best ones that we could. do me a lot of justice. I mean, I have to say that. Commissioner McKay, all I can say to you is look at the pictures, and all I can say is that we can only work with what we have to work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Too funny. Put them on the website. Make that decision before we look at them.
Trust.
You. Anyhow, next is Mr. Danny Williams. I don't think that's bad.
I'm not going to make the website, huh?
That one I'm asleep.
Where'd you get a lens that wide?
It's good.
Oh, I mean, you had everybody in it. Nobody. Came this, Dan Williams, Mount Savage, just one of the boys. Came this evening, actually came last week, and you guys had to leave early, just to say thanks. We were in here a couple weeks ago and brought up about the access to the trail below Frostburg. We have to get our vehicles and some ambulances and rescue stuff in there every now and then. It was pretty well shut. And mentioned it to Bobby, and we came to you guys on Thursday. On Friday morning, Mr. Bone called and said he'd got the call to go get Chase McKenzie, who's running that project now and is doing an excellent job over the county for you guys. And the sheriff said, we're going to get it scheduled, but it'll take a little bit. And he called me Monday afternoon and said, go up and look at it and see what you think. They cut the trees and heavy brush back a little bit so you can get what needs to get in and out of there. And they started down at the Yellow Gate and mowed it about 4 foot back all the way up to the trail. When you go by and look in, it's like going into a park. It looks really nice. And there's other people that actually go that way to get in from that lower area with their bikes or stuff to whatever get in it. And they've got it down to where it looks good that depending on the rain, they might only have to hit it every 3 or 4 weeks just to keep it dressed up a little bit. But it really looks nice and made that whole area look a lot better. Just wanted to thank you and give Mr. Bone and Chase and the sheriff credit for what they did. They did a really nice job.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention, sir. Mr. Wilmot.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I'm Kenneth Wilmot. I live at 513 Fort Avenue. For the last year and a half, I've been speaking in defense of the taxpayer on the animal control shelter. Now then, Tuesday a week ago, which was the 7th of May, I believe, I was coming down Balmer Avenue, and a large German Shepherd dog was running loose over to my left. I slowed down because I knew what he was going to do. He ran right across the street in front of me. So anyway, I was on my way to the city council meeting, so I got there and I called the police department, and who do I get? 911. And I asked to talk to the police department. And they said, what do you want? I said, I want to talk to the police department. He said, well, what's the problem? I said, you're not the police department. I want to talk to the police. He said, well, I'm the dispatcher. So anyway, I said, okay. I told him there was a German Shepherd running loose on Balmer Avenue, that some police had somebody come pick it up. And then I got the 64-question test. Well, was this dog actually running loose? Was this dog acting aggressive? Was it attacking anybody? I said, well, I didn't stop to pet it or anything else. I said, the dog's running loose. And according to the law, they're not allowed to run loose. He said, well, this is the way it is. If the dog isn't acting aggressive or attacking somebody, the animal shelter said they will not come out and pick that dog up. Now, allow me to read the law according to Allegany County. Paragraph 117.5. Item I, to respond promptly to all requests directed to them by the Animal Control Board, the Allegheny County Health Department, the Animal Welfare Society, the mayor and city of council of any incorporated town of Allegheny County, or member of the general public relating to the proper enforcement of this chapter or any law, ordinance, or regulation pertaining to animal control. Now then, animals running loose, or a dog running loose, that is a violation of the code. People are supposed to have their dogs under control. Now then, you back up here, paragraph 117.5, item F. These are all responsibilities of the animal control officers. F, to diligently seek out, pursue, and deliver to the county animal shelter all unlicensed dogs or other animals running at large or off the premises of the property of the owner of the dog or animal not under the control or supervision of the owner or responsible person found in any part of the county. Now then, who gives these people the authority to just make up the rules as they go along? That's the big question I got. Instead right here, they're supposed to come out and pick them up. And I feel my civil rights have been violated. When I call for
what? Your civil rights?
My civil rights, yes. I call for the police department. I don't think I should have to answer a 64-question test to some dispatcher who has no idea what's going on. Now, this is the third time I've called and the third time I've been put off on animals running loose, and I don't think it's right, and I'm going to pursue it further. Now, these people have, the dispatcher, he has no right, or anybody, to judge what's going on the street when they're not even there. I reported a legitimate dog running loose. Why didn't they, who give these people the authority to say they're not going to pick up stray dogs unless they're attacking somebody or even acting vicious? This is the third time I've called them. I've never got through to the police. And as of yet, I spoke about this last week at the city council meeting. Nobody there showed any interest, even the chief of police. It's just a ho-hum deal. I can remember when I was a young kid in the 40s and 50s, there was organized hunts of wild dogs in Allegheny County. They were so prevalent that they had organized hunts to shoot them down. Around the city dump, which is out towards the Old Town Road, there was hundreds of dogs out there. The people, they got tired of it, and they organized hunts, and they went out and shot them. That's why they had to come up with animal control.
Okay. Mr. Wilmot, what we will do is check with 911 to make sure that that person did follow policy, and I'll get back with you.
I think that 911 needs to sit down and read the law.
No, I think
instead of somebody pounding it up the backside.
Right. I think what will happen is that you'll find out that 911 is for emergencies, and I think that's what they're going to tell me, that the dog is not necessarily a life-threatening emergency, unless that dog has been aggressive towards.
How are they to judge that? They're not even there.
Well, that's why they ask you the question.
That's stupid.
Okay. Well, anyhow.
We're paying $407,240 for each people to do a job.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilmot, and I will check into it.
Can I have another 5 minutes after the next speaker?
I don't think so.
Increased by 2.5 cents per hundred, and said that on a $100,000 house, that'd be a one-time payment of $25. And I suggested that we use that money to provide $400,000 to $600,000 for a dental lab that you gentlemen are well aware of, that it's desperately needed. We have the poorest teeth in the state of Maryland and the poorest citizens. And at that time, Commissioner Valentine wanted to know how many properties I owned, and Commissioner McKay said that it didn't matter. And I'd like to get back to that. But moving on to item number 2, Commissioner McKay, what's the situation with the National Highway from Long Drive to the intersection of Route 36 and 40 in the Narrows with the state highway? I think you had met with them regarding whether they're going to take the parking off that street.
They have provided, or they have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. They are reaching out to here at the county to figure out a time for a work session for them to come and, for lack of better words, show the county commissioners what they found through that suggestion of putting in a bike lane for both sides or one, or what that is going to cost. So,
Well, and as you gentlemen know, because you three were kind enough to go out with me and looked at the situation, there's no more than 50 vehicles that park along that road, and we have 13,000 to 14,000 vehicles using it every day. And it's been my contention that we shouldn't have people parking on those roads. As you gentlemen saw, every one of those homes had a driveway. So as you well know, I can't speak out at a work session, and so I'm asking you now.
well, I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to have, the work session we'll have up in LaVale, possibly at the fire department. And we will have an opportunity then for people to talk about it.
Okay.
Because it is going to affect so many people. So I think for that special case, we'll end up doing that. And we'll let you know as soon as District 6 and
Appreciate
us
that.
get our schedules together.
Yeah. Item number 3 I have is what's the status of abolishing the LaVale zoning code and bring LaVale into the 21st century with no prohibition on political speech? As you well know, I've been working on this for a couple years with you gentlemen.
I believe you were at the Planning Commission meeting.
That's correct.
Their last official meeting where they took it up. They're going to make a recommendation to the commissioners, and when that occurs, then we'll move forward. The goal is to get it done certainly, hopefully this summer, or certainly by fall.
And hopefully before the national election, I'd like to put a 4x8 sign up, and
We'll make sure it's
Go
before
ahead.